In the forgotten town of Eldridge, nestled deep within the Pennsylvania wilderness, whispers of ancient beliefs and long-forgotten lore drifted through the air like the ever-present mist that shrouded the surrounding forest. The townsfolk, a superstitious and secretive lot, held onto fragments of a belief system that blended Christian mysticism with pagan earth worship, passed down through generations. These whispers spoke of a divine presence permeating the natural world, a belief that God could be found in the simplest of acts and the most unassuming of places. Emma was a woman of curiosity and quiet strength, recently relocated to Eldridge in search of a simpler life. Her arrival was met with the usual wariness afforded to outsiders, but she soon won the tentative trust of the townsfolk through her kind demeanor and willingness to help. Despite the outward appearances of normalcy, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something profoundly odd about the town, something that tugged at the edges of her understanding. The townsfolk often spoke in hushed tones about the kingdom, an enigmatic concept that seemed to straddle the line between reality and myth. According to local lore, the kingdom of God was not confined to churches or grand cathedrals but existed within and around every element of the natural world. Split a piece of wood and God is there, lift a stone and you will find God, they would say, eyes wide with conviction. Intrigued and somewhat skeptical, Emma decided to explore the truth behind these cryptic statements. She began her journey in the dense forest that bordered the town, where the trees stood like silent sentinels, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that filtered the sunlight into a mosaic of shadow and light. As she walked deeper into the woods, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease, as if the very air around her was alive with unseen eyes. One afternoon, while gathering firewood, Emma came across an ancient, gnarled tree. Its bark was rough and weathered, marked by countless seasons. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and the townsfolk's words echoing in her mind, she decided to split one of the larger logs. As the axe bit into the wood, a strange sensation washed over her. The moment the log split open, a faint glow emanated from within, and the air seemed to hum with a barely perceptible energy. She could almost hear whispers, soft and indistinct, as if the tree itself was trying to communicate. Shaken, Emma continued her exploration, her skepticism giving way to a profound sense of wonder and trepidation. She began to notice subtle changes in her surroundings, the way the leaves rustled as if in conversation, the way the stones seemed to pulse with a hidden life force. It was as if the entire forest was a living, breathing entity, imbued with a divine presence that defied logical explanation. Her explorations led her to an old, abandoned chapel on the outskirts of town, a relic from a bygone era. The building was in a state of disrepair, its wooden beams sagging and its stone walls covered in moss. Despite its dilapidated appearance, there was an undeniable aura of sanctity about the place. Emma entered cautiously, the floorboards creaking under her weight. Inside, she found an altar, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. Above it hung a simple wooden cross, its surface worn smooth by countless hands. As she stood there, she felt a profound sense of connection, as if the chapel itself was a conduit to something greater. She recalled the words of the townsfolk, "The kingdom of God is inside you and all around you," and for the first time, she truly understood their meaning. It wasn't about a distant, intangible deity, but about the divine essence that permeated every aspect of the world around her. Emma spent more time in the forest and the chapel, each visit deepening her understanding and her connection to the mysterious kingdom. She learned to listen to the whispers of the trees, to feel the pulse of the stones, and to see the divine in the most mundane of objects. She discovered that the true essence of the kingdom lay not in grand displays of power, but in the quiet, almost imperceptible moments of grace that existed all around her. However, as her connection to the kingdom grew, so too did the sense of foreboding that had been with her since her arrival. The townsfolk, once welcoming, began to withdraw, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and suspicion. Whispers of old curses and ancient guardians circulated, and Emma realized that her discoveries had unearthed something that the town had long tried to keep hidden. One moonless night, as she made her way to the chapel, the forest seemed to close in around her. The air was thick with anticipation, and every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent shivers down her spine. She reached the chapel, but something was different. The doors, usually ajar, were closed tight, and the windows, usually glowing with a soft, welcoming light, were dark. Inside, the chapel was eerily silent. The sense of divine presence she had come to expect was replaced by a suffocating sense of dread. She approached the altar, and as she did, she noticed something she had never seen before, a small, intricately carved stone hidden beneath a loose floorboard. She pried it open, revealing a hidden compartment filled with ancient texts and artifacts. Among them was a worn, leather-bound journal. As she read the journal, she uncovered the dark history of Eldridge. The town had been founded by a group of settlers who had discovered the kingdom and sought to harness its power. But their attempts had awakened something ancient and malevolent, a guardian of the kingdom that did not take kindly to human intrusion. The settlers had made a pact to protect the secret of the kingdom and to keep outsiders away, fearing the wrath of the guardian. Emma realized that her presence and her discoveries had broken the pact, and now the guardian was stirring once more. As she closed the journal, a chill ran through the air, and she felt an overwhelming sense of being watched. The whispers that had once seemed so benign now took on a more sinister tone, and the forest, once a place of wonder, became a maze of shadows and threats. In the days that followed, strange occurrences plagued the town. People disappeared without a trace, and the forest seemed to encroach ever closer, as if it was reclaiming its territory. Emma knew that she had to confront the guardian, to make amends for her unwitting trespass. She returned to the chapel one final time, the journal clutched in her hands. As she stood before the altar, she felt the presence of the guardian, a force of nature older and more powerful than she could comprehend. She spoke aloud, her voice trembling but resolute, acknowledging her intrusion and pledging to protect the kingdom's secret. For a moment, there was silence, and then the air seemed to sigh, as if the forest itself had accepted her plea. From that night on, Emma became the new guardian of Eldridge's secret, a bridge between the human world and the divine kingdom that lay hidden within the natural world. She watched over the town, ensuring that the ancient pact was honored and that the delicate balance between the seen and unseen was maintained. Eldridge remained a place of mystery and quiet reverence, its secrets guarded by those who understood the true meaning of the kingdom. And Emma, now a part of that ancient legacy, found peace in her role, knowing that the divine presence she had sought was not confined to a distant heaven, but existed within the very fabric of the world around her. In the sprawling city of Eldridge, where towering skyscrapers loomed like sentinels over the urban jungle, the night was a time of shadows and secrets. Among the neon-lit streets and the hum of technology, there existed a hidden world, one where the struggle for power and survival played out beneath the surface of everyday life. Jackson Jax Rivers was a young man hardened by the trials of a harsh world. The son of a fallen soldier and a mother taken by illness, Jax grew up with the belief that life was a battle, and he was determined to emerge victorious. The streets had been his training ground, each confrontation a lesson in resilience and cunning. The weight of his past and the ghost of his father's legacy loomed large, driving him to seek purpose in a world that seemed to offer none. Here we go, holding on to lies, holding on to ties that vanished, Jax muttered to himself one evening, as he navigated the labyrinthine alleys of the city. His mind was a battlefield, echoes of broken promises and lost connections haunting his thoughts. Yet, despite the chaos within, he clung to the belief that he could carve out a destiny greater than the sum of his experiences. He often found solace in the night sky, its vastness a reminder that there was more to life than the confines of his reality. Cut the rope and fall into the sky, he would think, imagining a freedom beyond the reach of the city's steel and concrete. But as much as he yearned for liberation, the devilish grip of despair often clouded his vision, filling his mind with a profound sadness. The world's a gun and I've been aiming all my life, he reflected, his thoughts a mix of determination and fatalism. The city was a weapon, and he was its ammunition, constantly propelled towards an uncertain target. Despite the adversities, Jax knew he had something to live for, a cause that kept his spirit unyielding. One night, during one of his solitary walks, he stumbled upon an underground resistance movement, a group of rebels fighting against the oppressive regime that controlled Eldridge. They called themselves the Warriors of Youth, a defiant collective determined to overthrow the corrupt establishment and usher in a new world order. Intrigued by their resolve and driven by a sense of kinship, Jax joined their ranks, embracing the fight with fervor. The resistance became his new family, each member a kindred spirit bound by a shared purpose. Together, they plotted their insurgency, their actions a series of calculated strikes against the regime. Got something to live for, I know that I won't surrender, Jax would remind himself, steeling his resolve before each mission. As a warrior of youth, he felt invincible, his spirit fortified by the camaraderie and the cause they championed. Their attacks grew bolder, each victory a testament to their unwavering determination. Jax's reputation within the group soared, his fearlessness earning him the moniker Bulletproof. It was not just a reflection of his physical resilience, but of his unbreakable spirit. I am bulletproof, he would declare, a mantra that fueled his defiance against the regime. But the fight was not without its costs. Here I go, another prison fight, another perfect sky I damaged, he lamented after a particularly brutal skirmish. The struggle for freedom left scars, both visible and hidden, each battle a reminder of the sacrifices made. Despite the toll, Jax remained steadfast, driven by a newfound understanding of life's purpose. Now I know just who created life and why I set my sights to save it, he mused, his conviction deepening with each passing day. The regime, growing increasingly desperate, launched a counter-offensive aimed at quelling the rebellion. The warriors of youth found themselves outnumbered and outgunned, their resolve tested like never before. As the final confrontation loomed, Jax stood at the forefront, his heart a blend of fear and defiance. "The world's a gun and I've been aiming all my life," he whispered, a sense of inevitability settling over him. The culmination of his journey was at hand, and he was prepared to face whatever came. "Got something to live for, I know that I won't surrender," he affirmed, the weight of his father's legacy and his own experiences coalescing into an unbreakable will. The battle was fierce, a maelstrom of chaos and violence. Amid the turmoil, Jax fought with the fury of a man possessed, his every move a testament to his indomitable spirit. As the regime forces fell, he felt a sense of vindication, each victory a step closer to the dawn of a new era. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the final breaths of the fallen echoed in the silence, Jax stood victorious. "I have been the truth, I'm taking over," he proclaimed, the mantle of leadership falling upon his shoulders. The new world order they had fought for was within reach, and he was determined to see it realized. As the city began to rebuild, Jax's name became a symbol of hope and resilience. The warriors of youth, though battered, emerged stronger, their unity a beacon for others to follow. Eldridge, once a place of shadows and secrets, now stood on the precipice of a brighter future, its citizens inspired by the indomitable spirit of a warrior who had refused to surrender. Jax, now a leader and a symbol of the new era, continued to navigate the challenges of rebuilding a society from the ashes of the old. Each day, he reminded himself of the journey that had brought him here, the battles fought and the lessons learned. "I am bulletproof," he would think, a quiet affirmation of his strength and his resolve. In the end, the story of Jackson Rivers was one of transformation, a testament to the power of resilience and the unyielding spirit of youth. From the shadows of his past to the dawn of a new era, he had forged a path of defiance and hope, proving that even in the darkest of times, the light of human spirit could shine through, unbreakable and bulletproof. In the midst of a desolate wasteland, where the sun scorched the earth and the winds howled like a mournful dirge, there stood a small community of survivors. They called their home Ashen Haven, a stark reminder of the cataclysm that had reduced their once thriving world to a barren desert. The graves of the ones they remembered dotted the landscape, silent witnesses to the lives lost and the stories forgotten. The people of Ashen Haven were a resilient lot, having weathered countless hardships. They were the slaves of the cold December, a phrase that spoke not only of the harsh winters but also of the years of suffering under the oppressive rule of a tyrannical overlord known only as the Serpent. This despot had crushed their spirits and stolen their voices, leaving them to eke out a meager existence in the shadows of their former lives. Yet, even in the darkest times, hope flickered like a dying ember. Among the survivors was a young woman named Illyra, whose fiery spirit and unyielding determination made her a beacon of hope for her people. Illyra had grown up hearing tales of the time before the cataclysm, stories of freedom and prosperity that seemed like distant dreams. These stories fueled her resolve to see her people rise from the ashes and reclaim their destiny. As the new year approached, a sense of urgency gripped Ashen Haven. Illyra gathered the people, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Stand up, we are united in the eyes of the greatest storm," she declared, her words igniting a spark in the hearts of those who listened. "Line up, we are ignited." This world will be reborn. The survivors, their spirits rekindled, stood together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had endured years of hardship, but now, they were ready to fight for a new beginning. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Illyra counted down, her voice filled with a mixture of determination and hope. "This is New Year's Day," she proclaimed as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in a crimson glow. "So rise from the ashes. Faith will find a way, like lightning crashes." Her words echoed through the camp, a rallying cry that filled the people with a sense of purpose and resolve. They would keep marching on, no matter the obstacles in their path. As night fell, they gathered around a makeshift bell, a symbol of their unity and defiance. "Ring a bell so the serpent hears us," Illyra called out, her voice defiant. "Let her know that we're tried and true. No, the beasts, they won't get near us, and we're not scared of you." The bell tolled, its sound carrying through the still night, a challenge to their oppressor. "Light 'em up now," Illyra shouted, and the survivors lit torches, their flames dancing in the darkness. The countdown began again, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they surged forward, their determination a force of nature. The serpent's forces, unprepared for such a coordinated assault, fell back, their once fearsome presence reduced to chaos. "This is New Year's Day," the people chanted as they fought, their voices rising above the clash of battle. "So rise from the ashes. Faith will find a way, like lightning crashes." The battle raged on, but the survivors pressed forward, their unity and resolve unbreakable. In the midst of the chaos, Illyra stood at the forefront, her eyes blazing with determination. "Let the eagle fly," she called out, invoking the symbol of freedom that had once graced their world. "Freedom in the night. Let the eagle fly. Legends never die." Her words spurred the survivors on, their spirits buoyed by the vision of a future where they were no longer slaves but free people, masters of their own fate. As the battle reached its climax, a violin solo pierced the night, a haunting melody that seemed to encapsulate the struggle and hope of the survivors. Illyra fought with everything she had, her every move a testament to her unyielding spirit. The serpent's forces, demoralized and overwhelmed, began to retreat. "This is New Year's Day," Illyra shouted one last time as the dawn broke, the first light of the new year casting a golden glow over the battlefield. "So rise from the ashes. Faith will find a way, like lightning crashes. We'll keep marching on and on and on." Her voice carried across the desert, a promise of a new beginning. As the dust settled, the survivors stood victorious, their oppressors vanquished. Ashen Haven was no longer a place of despair but a symbol of resilience and rebirth. Illyra, bloodied but unbowed, looked out over her people, her heart swelling with pride and hope. "From the ashes," she whispered, echoing the words that had become their anthem. "So rise from the ashes." The survivors, their faces illuminated by the first light of the new year, knew that they had been reborn. They were free, and together, they would rebuild their world, stronger and more united than ever before. In the days that followed, the survivors set to work, their spirits lifted by their hard-won freedom. They rebuilt their homes, tended to their wounded, and laid the foundations for a new society, one built on the principles of unity, resilience, and hope. Illyra, their leader and inspiration, continued to guide them, her vision of a better future unwavering. The graves of the ones remembered in the desert were no longer just markers of loss but symbols of the sacrifices made and the legacy of resilience that would guide them forward. As the days turned into weeks and then months, Ashen Haven flourished, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who had risen from the ashes. And so, the story of Illyra and the survivors of Ashen Haven became a legend, a tale of hope and defiance that was passed down through generations. They had faced the greatest storm and emerged victorious, proving that even in the darkest times, faith could find a way. They were the embodiment of the new year, a symbol of rebirth and the enduring power of the human spirit. In a future not too distant from our own, the world had fallen under the shadow of an insidious force known only as the Collective. This enigmatic entity had seeped into every facet of society, manipulating minds and bending the will of humanity to its dark purposes. Cities once vibrant with life were now bleak and controlled, their inhabitants mere pawns in a grand and nefarious game. The air was thick with an unspoken dread, a pervasive fear that settled in the bones of all who dared to think freely. In the heart of one such city, a group of insurgents known as FEAR, Freedom, Emancipation, and Resistance, had taken up the mantle to protect what little remained of humanity's spirit. Led by the enigmatic figure known only as Spectre, FEAR operated from the shadows, striking against the Collective with calculated precision. They were the last bastion of hope, the defenders of free will in a world rapidly succumbing to control. The members of FEAR knew that the battle for humanity was about to begin in earnest. Each day, they prepared for the inevitable confrontation, their resolve unshaken despite the overwhelming odds. Within each uprising, they found strength, knowing that even the smallest spark of rebellion could ignite a revolution. Spectre stood before the assembled fighters, his voice a calm beacon in the storm of uncertainty. "We expect the battle for humanity is about to begin," he intoned, his eyes scanning the room, locking onto each pair of determined eyes. "Within each uprising, a fake sense of safety will ignite in you. It's the Collective's most potent weapon, making you believe you are safe when you are not." His words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the ever-present danger. The Collective's tactics were insidious, preying on doubt and fear, turning even the bravest hearts against themselves. Spectre continued, "An unseen shadow will slip from doubt towards those who protect and defend you. They will seek to undermine our unity, to turn us against one another." The room was silent, each member of FEAR absorbing the gravity of their leader's words. They had all seen the effects of the Collective's manipulations, how even the strongest minds could be twisted by a whisper of doubt. But Spectre was not one to let despair take hold. He stepped forward, his presence commanding and reassuring. "But let those thoughts slip away, and remain calm," he urged, his voice steady. "Stay close to FEAR. Only we can protect you from the insidious reach of the Collective. Only together can we stand against the tide of darkness that seeks to engulf us." The room erupted in a chorus of assent, a wave of resolve sweeping through the ranks of the insurgents. They knew the risks, the sacrifices that lay ahead, but they also knew the importance of their mission. Each of them had a story, a reason for fighting, and it was these personal truths that fueled their collective strength. Among them was Raven, a former soldier who had lost her family to the collective's relentless purge. She had seen the devastation firsthand, the hollow eyes of those who had succumbed to the mind control. Her resolve was like tempered steel, forged in the fires of loss and fueled by a burning desire for justice. Beside her stood Orion, a tech genius whose skills had once served the very machine they now fought against. He had defected when he saw the true nature of the collective's plans, his guilt over past actions transforming into a relentless drive to dismantle the system he had helped build. Spectre looked at each of them, a sense of pride swelling within him. They were more than just a resistance group, they were a family bound by purpose and sacrifice. "We are the vanguard," he declared, his voice rising with passion. "We are the defenders of humanity's last hope. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every soul that yearns for freedom." The days that followed were filled with preparation. FEAR established safe houses, secured supply lines, and disseminated information to the oppressed masses. They moved like phantoms through the city, their presence felt but never seen, their actions swift and decisive. The collective, sensing the growing threat, intensified its efforts to root out the insurgents. The city's skies were filled with drones, their mechanical eyes scanning for any sign of rebellion. Posters adorned every wall, warning citizens of the dangers of dissent, urging them to report any suspicious activity. Despite the increasing pressure, FEAR remained undeterred. They knew the stakes, understood the consequences of failure. But they also knew that the human spirit, once ignited, could never be fully extinguished. They planned their strikes carefully, each move a step towards weakening the collective's grip. One night, as the city lay under the oppressive watch of the collective, FEAR launched their most daring operation yet. Spectre, Raven, Orion, and a select team of fighters infiltrated a high-security facility rumored to house the core of the collective's control network. The facility was a fortress, its walls bristling with defenses, but FEAR had one advantage: they were fighting for something greater than themselves. Inside the facility, the air was thick with tension. The team moved with practiced precision, their movements coordinated and silent. They encountered resistance, but each obstacle was met with a swift and decisive response. Raven led the charge, her combat training and raw determination carving a path through the enemy lines. Orion, meanwhile, worked his magic on the security systems, his fingers dancing over the keys with practiced ease. He bypassed firewalls and disabled surveillance, opening a clear path to the core of the network. Time was of the essence, and every second counted. As they neared their objective, Spectre gathered the team for one final briefing. "This is it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The moment we've been preparing for. Stay focused, stay united. We will succeed because we must." With a final nod, they moved forward, breaching the inner sanctum of the facility. The room was a stark contrast to the rest of the building, its walls lined with screens displaying the collective's reach. At the center stood a massive console, the heart of the network. Orion set to work, his focus unwavering. The rest of the team formed a perimeter, ready to fend off any attackers. Minutes felt like hours as Orion battled the layers of security, each barrier more formidable than the last. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but he pushed through, driven by the knowledge that their success could mean the liberation of countless minds. Finally, with a triumphant shout, Orion broke through the final firewall. The screens flickered, the data streams faltering. "We're in," he exclaimed, his voice filled with exhilaration. Spectre stepped forward, his hand hovering over the control panel. "This is for humanity," he said, his voice resolute. With the final press of the button, the network began to collapse, the tendrils of the collective's control disintegrating before their eyes. Outside, the city reacted as if waking from a long nightmare. People looked around, their expressions shifting from confusion to realization. The unseen chains that had bound their minds were breaking, the fog of control lifting. FEAR had struck a decisive blow, but the battle was far from over. They knew that the collective would retaliate, but they were ready. United in their purpose, they had proven that even in the darkest times, the human spirit could rise and fight back. As they made their way out of the facility, Spectre turned to his team. "This is just the beginning," he said, a fierce determination in his eyes. "We stay close to FEAR. We protect each other, and we keep fighting. For humanity." The dawn of a new day broke over the city, the first light of hope in a world long shrouded in darkness. FEAR stood ready, their spirits unyielding, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would reclaim their world, one battle at a time. In a world fractured by chaos and consumed by darkness, where the very essence of humanity had been tainted by corruption and despair, there existed a land known as Hysteria. This realm, once a place of dreams and aspirations, had become a desolate wasteland where chaos reigned supreme. Global Disturbia, a term that encapsulated the pervasive turmoil and twisted ways that now defined existence, had bowed down to the most malevolent forces. Among the remnants of this shattered world was a figure known only as Eliana, a woman who embodied both innocence and the potential of what could have been. Her skin, marked with the scars of broken dreams, told the story of a life marred by unfulfilled promises and relentless suffering. Yet, within her burned an unyielding fire, a defiance that refused to be extinguished. In the shadow of Hysteria, Eliana stood amidst the ruins, her gaze steely and resolute. "Here lies Hysteria," she whispered to herself, the words carrying the weight of 1,000 broken lives. "A land where chaos reigns, where global disturbia bows down to twisted ways." The world she had once known was now a realm of hate, a place where the wild ones thrived. These were the outcasts, the rebels who refused to conform to the collective's oppressive rule. They looked the same, each bearing the marks of their struggle, yet each unique in their resilience. Their time had come. Eliana, the chosen among them, was both wretched and divine. She was the unspoken, the one they had left behind, yet she remained fearless, ready to fight until the end. "I am the chosen," she declared, her voice unwavering. "The wretched and divine. I am the unspoken, the one they left behind." The wind howled around her, a fitting accompaniment to her thoughts. She was the devil's smile, the one caught every day in the crosshairs of despair and hope. No hopeful hero's speech could erase the years of bleeding, the endless suffering that had become the norm. She was a hurricane, the strongest force in this broken world, ready to unleash her fury against those who laughed at their plight. "The war you left has just begun," she murmured, her words a promise of retribution. She knew that a world of hate awaited, a world where she and the wild ones would have to fight for every inch of freedom. They were the broken, the wretched, yet within them lay a divinity forged in suffering. As she walked through the desolate streets of Hysteria, she saw the faces of those who had been left behind, the unspoken victims of a world gone mad. We live for the broken hearts, she reminded herself. Won't watch them fall apart. Every step she took was for those who didn't know they existed, for the endless winter that had claimed so many lives. We die for the endless winter, she vowed, her voice a whisper against the howling wind. Beginner and the sinner. We die for the ones who raise their hands to resist. Her resolve was mirrored in the eyes of her fellow rebels, each of them ready to face the darkness with a defiance that could not be quelled. As they gathered, Ileana stood at the forefront, a beacon of hope and resilience. I am the chosen, she repeated, her voice carrying over the assembled crowd. The wretched and divine. I am the unspoken, the one they left behind. Fearless, we fight until we die. I am the broken, the wretched, and divine. The chorus of voices rose with hers, a testament to their unbreakable spirit. They were the wretched and divine, each of them scarred by the past yet united in their fight for a better future. The guitar solo that followed was a fierce, raw expression of their struggle, a musical embodiment of their defiance. As the final notes faded, Ileana's voice rose once more. We live for the broken hearts, she called out. Won't watch them fall apart. We live for the ones who don't know they exist. We die for the endless winter. Beginner and the sinner. We die for the ones who raise their hands to resist. The crowd echoed her words, their voices a powerful affirmation of their shared resolve. They were more than just survivors, they were warriors, ready to reclaim their world from the clutches of despair. Together, they would rise from the ashes, their spirits unyielding and their hearts ablaze with the fire of rebellion. In the days that followed, the insurgents of FEAR intensified their efforts, launching coordinated attacks against the collective strongholds. Their actions were swift and precise, each victory a step towards dismantling the oppressive regime. The people of Hysteria, inspired by the courage of the rebels, began to rise as well, their defiance spreading like wildfire. The battle was fierce, and the cost was high. Many lives were lost, but each sacrifice only strengthened their resolve. Ileana led the charge, her presence a constant reminder of what they were fighting for. She was the hurricane, the strongest force against the storm of tyranny. One fateful night, as the moon hung high in the sky, FEAR launched their most daring assault yet. The collective Central Command, a fortress of steel and stone, was their target. The rebels moved with calculated precision, their movements a dance of defiance and determination. Ileana led the vanguard, her every step a testament to her unyielding spirit. They breached the outer defenses, their progress marked by fierce skirmishes and the sound of clashing steel. Inside the fortress, the air was thick with tension, every corner a potential ambush. As they fought their way to the heart of the stronghold, Ileana's voice rang out above the chaos. We are the chosen, she declared, her words a battle cry. The wretched and divine. We are the unspoken, the ones they left behind. Fearless, we fight until we die. We are the broken, the wretched, and divine. Her words spurred the rebels on, their resolve unbreakable. They reached the central chamber, where the collective's leaders awaited. The final confrontation was brutal, a clash of wills and strength. But the rebels fought with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. In the end, it was Ileana who struck the decisive blow, her blade cutting through the heart of their oppressors. As the leaders of the collective fell, a silence settled over the fortress, the echoes of battle fading into the night. The rebels stood victorious, their faces marked by exhaustion and relief. Ileana looked around at her comrades, her heart swelling with pride. They had fought against overwhelming odds, and they had won. They were the wretched and divine, the broken who had risen to reclaim their world. The dawn of a new era broke over Hysteria, the first light of hope in a world long shrouded in darkness. The rebels began the arduous task of rebuilding, their spirits unyielding. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but they also knew that together, they could overcome any obstacle. As Ileana stood atop the ruins of the fortress, she looked out over the city she had fought so hard to save. "We live for the broken hearts," she whispered, a promise to those who had fallen. "Won't watch them fall apart. We live for the ones who don't know they exist. We die for the endless winter. Beginner and the sinner. We die for the ones who raise their hands to resist." Her voice carried on the wind, a vow that echoed through the hearts of all who heard it. The wretched and divine had risen, and their fight for freedom would continue. In the face of darkness, they had found their light, and together, they would build a new world. In a dystopian world where the line between heaven and hell had blurred, the gates of paradise were shut tight, and the pits of damnation were overflowing. Society had become a place where the righteous and the wicked were indistinguishable, their roles swapped in a twisted game of fate. Amidst this chaos, a lone figure, Orion, wandered through the desolate streets, haunted by the feeling that he didn't belong anywhere. Orion was often labeled a sinner, a walking flame from the fire that still burned within him. He was an outcast, shunned by both the so-called virtuous and the damned. His heart was heavy with the weight of rejection, a constant reminder that he was different, that he didn't fit into the rigid molds society had created. The Church of Fear, Orion mused, looking at the towering structure that dominated the skyline. It was a place that preached failure and scorned individuality. The congregation, blind followers of a dogma that promoted conformity and submission, had no place for someone like him. "The Church of Failure, the Church of Fools," he muttered, his voice laced with bitterness. As he walked through the crumbling city, Orion could feel the stares of contempt and the whispers of disdain. "Call me a nothing, call me a something, treat me cruel," he thought, the words echoing in his mind like a mantra. He knew he didn't belong here, but he also knew he wasn't alone. There were others like him, the rejects and the defectors, who had been cast out by a society that feared their defiance. The streets were filled with the disillusioned, those who had been pushed to the fringes of existence. They were the underground, a collective of souls who refused to be silenced. Their anthem was one of resilience and rebellion. "We don't belong here, we don't belong," they sang, their voices a powerful chorus against the oppressive silence of the mainstream. Orion felt a surge of determination as he joined the March of the Rejects, a parade of the defects. These were his people, the ones who had been dismissed and used, but who still held on to their humanity. They rose from the darkness, their eyes burning with the fire of defiance. "Show me your worst, show me your cursed, tell me the truth," he challenged, his voice rising above the crowd. The air was thick with tension as the march moved forward, a relentless tide of the unwanted and the unbowed. Orion could feel the collective strength of the underground, their spirits unbroken despite the weight of their scars. "We don't belong here," they chanted, their voices a rallying cry against the forces that sought to crush them. As the march reached the steps of the church, Orion felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than a protest, it was a declaration of their right to exist, to be heard, and to be seen. "It's the anthem of the underground," he shouted, his voice resonating with the defiant energy of the crowd. "So get back up when they push you down. We're singing, we don't belong here, we don't belong." The gates of heaven were still locked, and the pits of hell remained filled, but Orion knew that their fight was far from over. They were the outcasts, the broken, and the cursed, but they were also the chosen. They had risen from the ashes of a world that had tried to silence them, and they would continue to rise, no matter the cost. The guitar solo that followed was a fierce expression of their rebellion, a musical embodiment of their struggle. It was a sound that pierced through the night, a reminder that their voices could not be drowned out. As the final notes faded, Orion looked at his fellow rebels, his heart swelling with pride. The gates of heaven were locked shut, the pits of hell, they were all filled up, he repeated, his voice steady. "And I fear I don't belong here." But as he looked into the eyes of the underground, he knew that belonging was not about fitting in, it was about finding those who embraced you for who you were. The crowd erupted into one final chorus, their voices a powerful testament to their resilience. "We don't belong here, we don't belong," they sang, their spirits unyielding. "It's the anthem of the underground, so get back up when they push you down. We're singing, we don't belong here, we don't belong." As the night gave way to dawn, Orion felt a sense of hope rising within him. They were the underground, the defiant, and the unbroken. And together, they would carve out a place for themselves in a world that had tried to deny their existence. They didn't belong in the heaven or hell that society had created, but they belonged with each other, in the fight for a better, more just world. The final echoes of their anthem faded into the morning light, a promise of new beginnings and endless possibilities. Orion knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with the underground by his side, he was ready to face whatever came their way. They were the wretched and divine, and their time had come. In a world where chaos reigned and the boundaries between heaven and hell had become indistinguishable, society teetered on the edge of collapse. The streets were lined with the broken remnants of a civilization that once thrived, now reduced to a desolate wasteland where the righteous and the wicked mingled in a constant struggle for survival. Amid this turmoil, a voice of authority attempted to maintain control, a voice that demanded allegiance and obedience, the voice of Fear. The voice echoed through the shattered buildings and down the empty streets, a haunting reminder of the power that still held sway over the populace. "The rebels claim their brave new world is upon us," the voice declared, resonating with an eerie calmness. "Do not be fooled by the chicanery with which they lay their claim. It is false, and their uprising will not succeed. Orion, a figure among the outcasts and defectors, listened to the broadcast with a mix of disdain and determination. He knew the truth behind the voice's words, the desperation that lay hidden beneath its surface. The establishment was scared, its grip on power slipping as the underground movement grew stronger each day. Orion had seen the faces of the oppressed, had heard their stories, and knew that their cause was just. As he walked through the crumbling city, Orion could see the symbols of F.E.A.R everywhere: banners, posters, and holographic displays that urged the citizens to remain loyal. "You will place your trust in F.E.A.R. You must," the voice insisted, a command more than a plea. But Orion and his fellow rebels had long since rejected this call. They had seen the true face of F.E.A.R, a regime that thrived on control and manipulation, one that sought to crush any spark of dissent. Orion's journey took him to the heart of the rebellion, a hidden enclave where the underground gathered to plan their next move. The air was thick with tension and anticipation as leaders discussed strategies and prepared for the coming confrontation. They knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but they were driven by a fierce sense of purpose and unity. Among the rebels was Lyra, a fiery and passionate leader whose resolve inspired those around her. She stood before the assembled group, her eyes blazing with determination. "We are the Wild Ones," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "They all look the same, but our time has come. We will not be silenced. We will not be controlled." The crowd erupted in a chorus of agreement, their spirits undaunted by the challenges they faced. "I am the chosen, the wretched and divine," Orion thought, the words of their anthem echoing in his mind. "I am the unspoken, the one they left behind. Fearless, fight until we die. I am the broken, the wretched, and divine." As they prepared for the next phase of their uprising, Orion and the rebels knew they would face fierce opposition. The forces of F.E.A.R were formidable, their methods ruthless and unforgiving. But the rebels had something that F.E.A.R could never understand: hope, resilience, and an unyielding belief in their cause. The night before the planned attack, Orion found himself standing at the edge of the city, looking out at the horizon. The stars above seemed to mirror the countless souls who had suffered under the regime's rule, each one a testament to their struggle and sacrifice. He felt a sense of calm wash over him, a quiet resolve that strengthened his spirit. The gates of heaven were locked shut, the pits of hell, they were all filled up, he whispered, the words a reminder of the world they sought to change. "And I fear I don't belong here." But he knew that his place was with the rebels, fighting for a future where they could all belong. As dawn broke, the rebels moved into action, their hearts steeled for the battle ahead. The streets once again echoed with the voice of F.E.A.R, a final attempt to dissuade them from their course. "You will place your trust in F.E.A.R. You must," the voice commanded, but its power was waning. The clash that followed was fierce and brutal, a test of wills between the forces of control and the spirit of rebellion. Orion fought with everything he had, driven by the faces of those who had been silenced and the dreams that had been shattered. Around him, the rebels pushed forward, their determination unwavering. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, it was clear that the rebels had made their mark. They had stood up to F.E.A.R, had shown the world that they would not be cowed. Though the fight was far from over, they had taken a crucial step towards their goal. In the aftermath, Orion looked at his fellow rebels, their faces weary but filled with hope. They were the chosen, the wretched and divine, and their struggle had only just begun. Together, they would continue to rise, to push forward, and to reclaim their world from the grasp of fear and tyranny. The voice of F.E.A.R. might still linger, but it no longer held the same power. The rebels had shown that even in the darkest of times, the light of resistance could shine through. And as they marched onward, their anthem ringing in the air, they knew that they were on the path to a brave new world of their own making. In the heart of a desolate city where the remnants of a broken society struggled to survive, a lone figure moved through the shadows. Orion had been running for so long, his breath a steady rhythm in the eerie silence of the abandoned streets. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, searching for a song worth singing, a reason to keep going in a world that seemed intent on breaking him. Each chapter of his life had been a note in a somber symphony, one that the world was eager to read but quick to discard. With every step, he felt hope slipping away, replaced by a dull ache that bled into his very soul. But deep within, a spark still burned, a dark desire that refused to be extinguished. As he wandered, memories of the devil's choirs echoed in his mind. The seductive whispers of despair and fear that tried to drown out the fire within him. Yet, amidst the cacophony, a voice emerged, clear and unwavering. It was Lyra, his fiercest ally, the one who had always seen the light in his darkness. "I'll carry you, my darkest desire," she had promised, her eyes blazing with an intensity that matched his own. In a world where life often sang through devil's choirs, Lyra's words were a beacon of hope. She refused to let FEAR steal the fire that burned in him. "I'll carry you away from the fire," she had vowed, a pledge that gave him the strength to keep fighting. Orion remembered the countless nights spent with Lyra and the other rebels, raising broken glasses to their failures and toasting to the promise of a crimson savior. They had looked into the lives they were leaving behind, each one a testament to the pain they had endured. Yet, Lyra's words had always held a truth that resonated deeply within him. "I promise you this isn't pain you're feeling," she would say, her voice filled with conviction. As the rebellion grew, so did the bond between Orion and Lyra. They were more than comrades, they were kindred spirits, united by a shared desire to break free from the chains of FEAR. Together, they faced the darkness head-on, their spirits intertwined in a dance of defiance and resilience. The city around them was a battlefield, and each day brought new challenges. The forces of FEAR were relentless, their methods brutal and merciless. Yet, amidst the chaos, Orion found solace in Lyra's presence. She was his anchor, the one who carried him through the darkest times. "My desire, devil's choirs," he would whisper to himself, drawing strength from the memory of her words. One fateful night, as the rebels prepared for a decisive confrontation, Orion and Lyra found themselves standing at the edge of a burning district. The flames roared around them, a fierce reminder of the stakes they faced. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting the fire's intensity. "I'll carry you, my darkest desire," she said, her voice steady despite the raging inferno. With a nod, Orion embraced the promise they had made to each other. Together, they charged into the fray, their hearts alight with the fire of rebellion. The battle was fierce, a maelstrom of chaos and destruction. But amidst the turmoil, Orion felt a sense of clarity. He was no longer running, he was fighting for something greater than himself. The rebels pushed forward, their resolve unshaken. Orion and Lyra fought side by side, their movements a seamless blend of skill and determination. The Devil's choirs sang their songs of despair, but the rebels' anthem of hope drowned them out. "Fear won't steal what burns in you," Lyra had said, and her words rang true as they pressed on. In the heat of battle, Orion felt a surge of strength. The fire within him blazed brighter than ever, fueled by the promise of a better future. As the final notes of the guitar solo echoed through the night, he knew that they were on the cusp of a new beginning. The dawn broke over the city, casting a golden light on the smoldering ruins. The rebels stood victorious, their spirits unbroken. Orion looked at Lyra, her face streaked with soot but her eyes shining with triumph. "My desire, Devil's choirs," he said softly, his voice filled with gratitude. They had faced the darkness together, had fought against the forces of Fear and emerged stronger for it. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but with Lyra by his side, Orion knew they could overcome anything. They were the chosen, the wretched and divine, and their fire would never be extinguished. As they moved forward, the echoes of their battle cry resonated through the city. "We don't belong here," they sang, their voices a testament to their unyielding spirit. "It's the anthem of the underground, so get back up when they push you down. We're singing, we don't belong here, we don't belong." The path to a brave new world was fraught with challenges, but Orion and Lyra were ready to face them together. They were more than rebels, they were the embodiment of hope and defiance, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness. And as they marched onward, their fire burned ever brighter, a testament to the power of resilience and the unbreakable bond they shared. In the shadowed ruins of a once glorious city, the echoes of despair resonated through the desolate streets. A figure moved silently amidst the debris, haunted by the years of sinning that had carved lines into his soul as deep and irreversible as lines in the sand. His name was Asher, a man burdened with the heartless feeling of pain and regret that had taken root in his heart. Madness seemed to grow around him, a creeping vine that threatened to choke the last remnants of his humanity. The wounds of his past were open and raw, festering reminders of a life spent in darkness. Yet, as he moved through the wreckage, he could hear the faint whispers of hope, a fragile thread woven through the fabric of despair. The world was sleeping, ensnared in the grip of night, but Asher knew that somewhere, hope still flickered. In the depths of his being, he felt a surge of determination. "I pray for morning," he whispered to the silent sky, his voice a fervent plea. "I swear I'll never let you die." The saints within him, the remnants of a better self, could bring this moment back to life. His heart held high with a newfound battle cry, Asher marched on. The horizon, once a symbol of endless darkness, now shimmered with the promise of a resurrected Sunday. "We will," he vowed, his steps gaining strength as he moved forward. The darkness had broken their homes and shattered their dreams, but he would not let it break their spirits. The memories of his past weighed heavily on him. All that they had wished for, now seemed like foolish dreams dangling on a rope. The desperate control of a burning passion had driven him to the brink, but in the depths of his despair, he found a spark of resistance. For the darkness, he muttered, clenching his fists, has broken our homes. All that we wished for, like fools on a rope. But Asher felt it, the desperate control slipping away, replaced by a burning passion to reclaim what was lost. Love had taken its toll, but it also fueled his resolve. He could sense the souls around him, silent yet resilient, their hope unyielding. Yet souls have a reason, he declared, his voice gaining strength. And I won't let go. With every step, Asher felt the weight of his past lifting. The city's ruins were a testament to the battles they had fought and the lives they had lost, but also to the indomitable spirit that refused to be extinguished. The saints within him, the echoes of those who had believed in a brighter future, urged him forward. I pray for morning, he cried out, his voice echoing through the empty streets. I swear I'll never let you die. The horizon, once shrouded in darkness, now glowed with the promise of dawn. Asher's heart swelled with hope as he pressed on, his battle cry reverberating through the silence. These saints within us can bring this moment back to life, he shouted, his voice a beacon of defiance. And my heart's held high with this battle cry, I'll march on. The dawn began to break, casting a golden light over the desolation. Asher felt the warmth of the rising sun on his face, a tangible symbol of the hope they had fought for. Resurrect the sun, he cried, his voice lifting with the rising light. Resurrect the sun. The city's ruins seemed to come alive with the new day, the shadows retreating before the onslaught of light. Asher stood tall, his spirit unbroken, his resolve unwavering. The world had slept in darkness for too long, but now, with the dawn, came the promise of renewal. The streets began to fill with others like him, survivors who had held on to hope in the face of despair. They gathered together, their faces turned toward the rising sun, their hearts united in a common cause. Asher raised his voice once more, a final cry to the heavens. Resurrect the sun. The chorus of voices joined his, a powerful testament to their unyielding spirit. Together, they would rebuild, reclaim what was lost, and resurrect the sun. The battle was far from over, but as long as they had hope, they would never surrender. Asher looked to the horizon, the golden light of the new day washing over the city. On the horizon, he whispered, a promise to the future. We will. In the heart of a city cloaked in shadows, a rebellion stirred, fueled by a burning desire to tear down the oppressive forces that had held them captive for too long. The echoes of their defiance reverberated through the streets, a rallying cry for freedom. The cross, a symbol of false piety and control, stood as a barrier between the people and their liberation. But now, the rebels vowed to tear it down, to shatter the illusion of power it represented. Splinters and shards would litter the ground as they dismantled the very foundation of their oppression. They remembered the Trojan horse, a cunning trick that had brought their enemies to their doorstep. But now, they would turn the tables, riding the wave of deception to infiltrate the land they sought to reclaim. They would burn away the chains that bound their fallen brothers, freeing them from the shackles of tyranny. In the midst of battle, the streets would run red with blood, a testament to the price of their freedom. But even as they faced fear and uncertainty, the rebels found solace in their faith. The candles that lit their path were symbols of hope, guiding them through the darkness of their struggle. but their victory would not come without sacrifice. FEAR, the tyrannical force that sought to crush their rebellion, would stop at nothing to maintain its grip on power. The rebels knew that they were marked for destruction, hunted like wild animals in the streets they once called home. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming odds, they refused to back down. Their little victories, their desires for a better future, would not be extinguished. They would fight on, refusing to let the shadows consume them. But FEAR would not relent. Its agents prowled the streets, rounding up rebels and dissenters, determined to crush any resistance to their rule. The rebels knew the danger they faced, but they also knew that they could not abandon their cause. As the guitar solo pierced the night air, the rebels stood firm, their spirits unbroken. They knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with peril, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. In the end, it was not just their own freedom that they fought for, but the freedom of generations to come. They would not allow FEAR to dictate their fate, nor would they surrender to the lies and deception that had kept them in chains for so long. With one final cry of defiance, they vowed to let the shadows die so that they could truly feel alive. For in the darkness, they had found a spark of hope, a glimmer of possibility that drove them ever forward. And as they marched into the night, they knew that their fight was far from over. But they also knew that as long as they stood together, they would never be truly defeated. The quiet corners of the soul, where doubts and desires intertwine, there exists a paradox that echoes through the ages. It is the conflict between the certainty of disbelief and the undeniable longing for something greater. For some, the concept of God is but a fading shadow, a relic of ancient superstition. Yet, for others, the yearning for a divine presence remains etched in the very fabric of their being. In the depths of his heart, Marcus wrestled with this contradiction. As a man of reason, he had long ago dismissed the notion of a higher power, scoffing at the tales of gods and miracles as mere fantasies of the human mind. And yet, despite his convictions, there lingered a profound emptiness, a gnawing hunger for meaning that could not be ignored. He found himself caught in a constant tug of war between intellect and emotion, reason and faith. On one hand, he could not deny the overwhelming evidence against the existence of God, the countless contradictions and inconsistencies that littered the pages of religious texts. And yet, on the other hand, there was a part of him that longed to believe, to find solace in the embrace of a loving deity. As he grappled with these conflicting emotions, Marcus found himself drawn to moments of introspection, where the boundaries between doubt and belief blurred into obscurity. In those quiet moments of contemplation, he felt a whisper of something greater, a fleeting glimpse of a truth beyond comprehension. And so, despite his staunch skepticism, Marcus could not help but acknowledge the profound irony of his existence. That he, a man who had spent his life denying the existence of God, should find himself haunted by the echo of a longing he could not forget. In the end, Marcus knew that he would continue to wrestle with this contradiction, to grapple with the enigma of his own existence. For as long as the human heart beats with the rhythm of longing, the question of God's existence will remain an eternal mystery, both undeniable and unforgettable. In the twilight hours of existence, as the shadows lengthen and the sands of time slip through our fingers, there are truths that demand to be acknowledged. Among them, the realization that all the hate we harbor within, all the bitterness and resentment that festers in the depths of our souls, will not preserve the innocence of youth nor shield us from the inexorable march of time. It is a sobering revelation, one that urges us to cast aside the shackles of tragedy and embrace the fleeting moments of life. For time, relentless in its passage, has a way of eroding even the most deeply entrenched sorrows, leaving us with naught but the precious gift of the present. One day at a time, the refrain echoes through the corridors of our minds, a gentle reminder to seize the fleeting moments and savor them like the finest of wines. For in the end, it is not the grandiose gestures or the lofty ambitions that define us, but rather the simple act of living each day to its fullest. Yet, as the sands of time continue to slip away, we are confronted with the stark reality of our mortality. Our days are numbered, finite in their scope, and in a world governed by the whims of fate, we are but mere mortals, subject to the caprices of fortune. And yet, in the face of this harsh truth, there is a glimmer of defiance, a refusal to bow to the dictates of fate. We feel the hunger, a primal urge that drives us forward, compelling us to chart our own course and defy the conventions that seek to constrain us. In a world where everyone yearns for eternal life but few truly grasp its meaning, we stand apart, unbound by the chains of convention. For we are nobody's fool, beholden to none but ourselves, and in the end, it is our choices that will shape the course of our destiny. So let man worship his gospel and live like a demon if he so chooses, for we will not be swayed by the dictates of society. We will forge our own path, write our own end, and with every tale we tell, we will carve out our legacy in the annals of time. In the tapestry of life, woven with threads of joy and sorrow, there exists a truth that cannot be denied: the best things often come at a cost. Like a brilliant star that burns bright only to fade into the darkness, the moments of pure happiness are fleeting, leaving behind a bittersweet residue of memories. Yet, even in the face of inevitable loss, there is a sense of rightness, a conviction that all is as it should be. It is a feeling that permeates the soul, guiding us through the tumultuous journey of existence and welcoming us home, if only for a fleeting moment. As we navigate the twists and turns of fate, words often fail us, unable to bridge the chasm that separates us from those we love. And yet, despite the inadequacy of language, there is a comfort in knowing that our actions speak louder than words, that every sacrifice made in the name of love is not in vain. So we sing, with voices raised in unison, welcoming home the moments that define us, that shape our very being. For in the end, it is not the grand gestures or the lavish displays of affection that matter most, but rather the simple act of being present, of cherishing each precious moment as if it were our last. And as the echoes of our song fade into the night, we are left with a sense of peace, knowing that all is as it should be. For every trial endured, every sacrifice made, is done for love. And in the end, that is all that truly matters. In the heart of the fray, amidst the chaos and the clash of steel, there exists a fire that burns with an unyielding intensity. It is the fire of defiance, of a soul unwilling to surrender to the darkness that threatens to consume it. And though the journey may be fraught with peril, it is a journey that must be undertaken, for it is in the face of adversity that true heroes are forged. But for some, the path to heroism is a lonely one, a solitary road littered with the wreckage of broken dreams and shattered illusions. They are the ones who bear the weight of their scars with stoic determination, who give everything they have in the pursuit of a cause greater than themselves. Yet, despite their best efforts, they find themselves grappling with their own limitations, their own humanity. For they are not infallible, not immune to the doubts and fears that plague us all. They are simply men, flawed and fallible, struggling to make sense of a world that often seems intent on tearing them apart. And so they fight, not for glory or recognition, but out of a sense of duty, a commitment to the ones they love. They are the loaded guns, the only sons, but they are nobody's hero. They have come undone, they are on the run, yet still they press on, driven by a relentless determination to make a difference in a world that so desperately needs their light. But even as they grapple with their own demons, they are not alone. For in the crucible of battle, they find solidarity, strength in numbers, and solace in the bonds of brotherhood. Together, they rise, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead, knowing that they may not be heroes in the eyes of the world, but they are heroes nonetheless. And so they march forward, undaunted by the shadows that loom on the horizon, for they know that true heroism lies not in the accolades of men, but in the courage to stand up and fight for what is right, even when all hope seems lost. They are nobody's hero, and yet, in the end, they are the ones who will light the way for generations to come. In the zenith of power, I stood as a titan, commanding the world beneath my fingertips. With a mere gesture, I shook the heavens themselves, bringing the mightiest of gods to their knees. I held the key to the kingdom, an emperor in a realm of my own making, with lions as sentinels and castle walls as my fortress. They hailed me as the sovereign of death, a ruler whose dominion knew no bounds. But then, like a candle extinguished by a gust of wind, it all slipped away. Dead and broken, I found myself with my back against the wall, the weight of my own hubris bearing down upon me. I had built these walls to safeguard my empire, only to witness them crumble before my very eyes. And in the wreckage of my once mighty kingdom, I stood alone, wondering who could save me now. Amidst the chaos of war and conquest, I stood as a colossus, a figure of fear and awe. I added another victory to my tally, another jewel to adorn my crown. Yet, in my quest for power, I failed to see the world unfolding around me. Blind to the beauty that lay just beyond my grasp, I stumbled blindly through the corridors of my own ambition. But now, in the aftermath of my downfall, I see with clarity that which eluded me before. I have lost it all, but in doing so, I have gained a newfound perspective. No longer bound by the trappings of my former glory, I stand ready to embrace the world that lies before me. For I believe that we all fall down sometimes, that even the mightiest of rulers can be brought low by the whims of fate. And as I pick myself up from the ruins of my past, I know that I am not alone. We all fall down sometimes, but it is in the rising that we find our true strength. In the face of adversity, we refuse to entertain the notion of defeat. Whether amidst the eerie silence of a deserted alley or the cacophony of a bustling street, our resolve remains unshaken. FEAR, our ally in the shadows, cannot be vanquished, for it courses through our veins, an indomitable force that cannot be destroyed. It will rise again, a specter haunting the dreams of the masses, reclaiming its dominion and crushing those who dare to challenge its supremacy. As the echoes of war fade into the annals of history, where enlightened pigs and festering wounds dwell, the rebels will find themselves on the brink of extinction. One by one, they will succumb to the fear of dying young, unable to escape the clutches of terror that grip them in the dead of night. They will lie awake, haunted by the knowledge that FEAR will once again ascend to its former glory, leaving behind a trail of blood and broken dreams. For the rebels who dared to defy us, their story will end in a symphony of anguish and despair. They will learn the hard way that in the end, FEAR reigns supreme, and those who dare to challenge its authority will meet a fate far worse than death. As the darkness descends and we vanish into the obscurity of the night, who will be the chronicler of your existence? In the twilight of my journey, as my soul finds its final resting place, what remains of my physical form? Am I but a hollow shell, devoid of substance and purpose? Throughout my life, I have waged battles, commanding armies with flesh and blood, sacrificing everything for fleeting moments of glory. In the end, who will recount the tale of your life, and who will recall your final farewell? For me, the end draws near, yet I am unafraid to embrace its embrace. Born with the stain of sin, yet yearning for sanctity, I strive to transcend my earthly limitations. We are more than mere mortals confined to our corporeal forms. Our essence transcends the boundaries of flesh and bone. If I should fall, I shall rise once more, reclaiming my place in the annals of history and reliving my moments of triumph. As we fade into the depths of night, who will bear witness to the story of our lives? Who will linger on the memory of our parting words? For me, the end is not a source of fear but a gateway to the unknown. And as I confront my mortality, I do so with unwavering courage, unafraid to face whatever lies beyond. In the end, as we depart from this world, who will remember our existence? Who will preserve our legacy for future generations? For me, death holds no terror. It is merely a transition to the next chapter of my journey. I am not afraid to confront the inevitable, for I know that my spirit will endure long after my physical form has faded into the ether. This is our final communication, a lamentation of defeat. The rebels, with their unwavering resolve, have triumphed over our once mighty armies. Their actions have thwarted our intentions of spreading our malevolent influence far and wide, casting a shadow over all that we hold dear. Now, everything we cherish and hold dear is destined to plummet into the depths of a new era of darkness. This age will be marked by sinister forces, fueled by twisted science and unyielding rebellion. The very essence of our existence, the core of our power, will wither away in the grip of relentless captivity. Know this, your quest for freedom is futile. You are ensnared in the clutches of FEAR, a force that cannot be escaped. As you struggle against your chains, remember that there is no salvation, no reprieve from the relentless grasp of our dominion. You are forever bound to the darkness, condemned to exist in the shadow of our influence.